The following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Defion Productions podcast. I am your host, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin, Don. Today I have a special guest. We have HodlFlorida here, live from a state way better than the one I'm sitting in right now in New York, down in sunny Florida. It's actually sunny here in New York for once, but it's definitely way better down in Florida than it is here in New York. Welcome to the podcast, man. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. You want to talk a little bit about your podcast and what you got going on and a little bit of your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I can start from when I got into Bitcoin, if that's when you want, all the way back then.
Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I got into Bitcoin in 2017. Originally, I was looking at trading stocks, and I had a very boring office job, dude. Like I sat there in a chair for like 9 hours a day. And so I didn't do much either. So I just started researching stocks, watching videos, trying to learn how to make money with trading stocks. And this is right when the Bitcoin bull run in 2017 started happening. And I just kept seeing Bitcoin pop up, and it just kept popping up. And I was like, I'll buy some. So I bought like $50, and it was like $13,000 per coin.
What platform?
And
What platform did you use at the time?
Coinbase.
Okay.
Yep. That was the first exchange that I saw that was like reliable, that I was like, okay, I can buy Bitcoin on here. And so I bought it on there. I kept buying a little bit, but I didn't pay much attention to it because we topped out and it came right back down. And then 2018, I was buying a little bit more just because it got low. 2019, same thing. I was buying like $50, $100 at a time. Kind of monthly. It was just part of, I didn't fully understand Bitcoin, but it was part of what I was just doing and part of my stock trading investing. By this time, I switched jobs and was working with my dad full time, and I was doing hardwood floors. So when you're doing hardwood floors, I would have 6 hours a day to listen to podcasts. I start plugging into podcasts, and I'm listening to everything Bitcoin, as much Bitcoin as I possibly can. And it starts to click. And I was like, why am I not buying more of this? At this time, it was going up. So it bottomed out around 3,500 or so. And I started buying a lot more. And I started to get conviction in it. And things were looking pretty good. I was, felt like a genius now until 2020. And it crashed all the way back down again, down to 3,500.
Yep.
And I remember the day I told my wife, I was like, we were broke at the time. We had maybe $4,000 in our bank account. And I tell my wife, if Bitcoin drops to $3,000, we're buying a full one. And the next day it jumped up over $4,000. So that night was the bottom, 3,500. And after that, I saw it jump to $4,000, man. I told my wife, we're going to try and buy as much of this as possible because I had full conviction. 2020 was like the turning point of craziness, printing money.
Yep.
It was the biggest ad I've ever seen for Bitcoin. And that was like nail in the coffin. I'm convinced. I'm sold on Bitcoin, the ideology, the ethos of Bitcoin, everything. And from that point on, I started buying Bitcoin every month as much as I physically could. We started making more money, started buying more Bitcoin. We didn't even build our savings. It was just more Bitcoin, more Bitcoin. Then you fast forward and we moved from Colorado to Texas. I quit my job doing hardwood floors so my wife could continue her job. And then we moved from Texas to Florida. And I was like, I just want to do something in Bitcoin. I want to do something for myself. So I started my own podcast about 2.5, 3 months ago now. And it's been going great. I just talk to people like you. I talk to amazing, influential, smart people about.
You had some cool guests. I saw you had some really cool guests.
Yeah,
very jealous. You had some cool guests.
Dude, it's been fun. I mean, talking to Gary Cardone. I was like,
Yeah.
what world would I get to talk to Gary Cardone? He charges like $100,000 for a speech, and here I am talking to him on a podcast for free.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And then, you get to talk to just amazing people that know way more than me. And I was like, I'm just going to start this. I'm going to start spreading my own knowledge about Bitcoin. I'm going to start getting more people to listen to podcasts if I can, because that's the way I learned. People don't have time to sit there and read a 300-page book and comprehend it and turn that into action of buying Bitcoin. A lot of people, they listen to podcasts when they drive, when they're at the gym. I'm like, I'm going to start my own and see where it goes. And so that's what I've done. And that's where I am now.
Yeah. Our stories are slightly similar. I was a cycle earlier. I came in at the absolute top of the 2013 cycle. So I say this like, thankfully, I bought the whole way down from 1100 to 199 was like, and I've worked my jobs. I've worked social work most of my life, very modest salary. So I'm not sitting here with a 6-figure salary where I can just plow a lot of money in. Right. So I'm same ideology as you at first. I'm buying because I want to buy at X and sell at Y. Like that's how I started thinking, oh, there's something here. I have an opportunity. And, this 2017 cycle happens and you see the run up and experiencing that euphoria of watching like hundreds of dollars turn into 6 figures and just be like, what do I have here? Oh my God. And you take profits because that's what you do because you don't know any better. And the only downside I'd say from starting earlier, and a lot of people don't like to, they just like to say, oh, I'm rich and everything's great. And I started early. You're stupid because you started late. You'll never hear that from me. There weren't the influencers and the podcasts in 2015 and 2016 to tell you that you had something great and hold. And that, you know what I mean? That wasn't a thing. Roger Ver was still a good guy. You know what I mean? And Andreas Antonopoulos was like my guy. That was my Michael Saylor that cycle. So that's really few and far between what you had. And then, for me, it took until 2020 when we printed just insane amounts of money for me to really have the light bulb go off and go, I'm not trying to get more fiat. I'm trying to take my fiat and get more Bitcoin. And it took I was in for 5.5 years before it was like light bulb went off. And it's like, I want as much Bitcoin as I can possibly get and the least amount of fiat as I can possibly have. And it helped that we had people like Michael Saylor, say what you will about him, good or bad, but the Michael Saylors, the Jeff Boots, like the guys that started actually podcasting, like you said, to get in your ear on a daily basis to tell you like what's wrong with the system and how this is an opt-out to that system. And I always felt like it was against me and I just couldn't explain it. And I knew it, but I couldn't articulate it. And then you learn. And then here I am starting this podcast and same as you, trying to help spread the word and, tell others that, Bitcoin is the answer, man. Like it's the solution. It's the answer. You change the money, you change all the things that that I'm preaching to the choir, but it's awesome to talk to people that see things the same way.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that up because I tell people, first Bitcoin I bought was in 2017. They automatically assume that I had like some $100,000 sitting in my bank account and I bought like 50 coins. I'm like, dude, am I allowed to cuss on this show, by the way?
Absolutely. Go. Yeah,
okay.
I do it all the time.
Okay.
My mom texts me and tells me, stop saying the F word.
You never know. No, people I tell them I buy in 2017, man. And they're like, oh, well, you're rich. I'm like, dude, I had no fucking money. You don't realize like $50 to me back in 2017 was everything. I was 27 years old. I got married when I was 25, bought a house in 2018. I had no money. I put all my money down on the house. If I'd put that in Bitcoin, I'd be fucking rich. But I only put $5,000 down on my house because that's all I had. And it was like first time home buyers and all that crap. And I was like, I was broke, dude. I wish I was piling money in 2017. I wasn't. But do you know what I was doing? Is I was learning. I was trying to gain as much information as possible to gain conviction on what I was buying. And that's what's led to me to be able to stack as much as I have. I don't have 50 coins laying around willing to sell because now it's $100,000 and I'm rich. No, no, it takes a lot of conviction to buy through ups and downs. So
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it when people tell me like, oh, you got lucky or you must be rich. No, dude. Like, do you know what it's like to hold an asset that drops 80% multiple times? You would have sold. Almost everyone would have sold if you didn't learn about it. It's very hard and it sucks. And everyone, mainstream media, your friends, your family, they all tell you you're an idiot for buying this thing. It takes a lot of conviction to hold through those ups and downs. And for you buying in 2015 in that cycle or a little earlier, you to hold from 195 all the way up to 20K, all the way back down, all the way back up, it takes a lot of conviction to do that, and I think we deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, it's people. You brought up a really good point. Like, people are always like, man, I wish I would have got in when you got in. And I'm just like, I don't have every single coin that I got from day one. Like, it's, you're buying from 1,000 to 200, from 200 to 20,000, 20,000 to 3 to 65 to 50. Like I said, it wasn't until 2020. I haven't sold a sat since 2018. I've only added since 2018. But before 2018, you're going to throw a 10x at me and a 15x at me, and I'm going to feel like I'm the smartest guy in the room. When somebody's like, oh, I bought Tesla and I 2x'd. I just 10x'd. What do you mean? Like, you know what I mean? So there's almost nobody outside of your very first guys that might be core developers that have every single token that they ever got or mined or whatever from the beginning. Like, you don't walk in the door in 2010 and 2011, watch Mt. Gox blow up. Because you're going to remember that I came in right after that too. I didn't get caught up in that because I was a little bit later. But you don't watch Mt. Gox blow up. You don't watch after all these things happen and just say, yeah, I'm going to hold this thing forever, until you really understand why. And for me in my podcast, what I try to tell people when they ask about Bitcoin, like, I don't have people start with Bitcoin. I try to have them start with the current system and understand that. Because when you understand fractional reserve banking, when you understand money printing, when you understand all that, then the why hits you in the face. Then you can't just be like, oh, I want to buy some Bitcoin, because you'll buy it, but you'll do what we did at the beginning, or others do, where you just buy it and you're looking for a 2x, 3x, 5, like people do with shitcoins. Like, you have the shitcoin mentality, which I don't know if you did, but I was shitcoining in 2015, 2014. Like, I had Ethereum at $2. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, you have to understand, like, why are we doing this? What is Bitcoin solving? And once you understand that, then you got to rip them out of my dead hands, man. You're not getting anything from me. It's generational at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I still have friends. I'm in a group chat. We call it the 2 Comma Club. And yeah, I know it's corny. But anyway, in that group chat, they still talk about shit coins all the time. The other day, I think it was 2 days ago, XRP, man. The topic was XRP. Where's that going? It's getting integrated with the banks of England or some shit. This is the next coin. It's still around. It's insane. And I'm like, at this point, I've told you what I can. I've told you the information I have. And I was like, can you just read one book about Bitcoin, please? Just choose one book. Choose the Bitcoin Standard. Choose the big print. One of those. Just read it, please, and tell me that XRP is your solution. And it's insane because, dude, shitcoining, yeah, it was fun back in the day. I got incredibly lucky that I didn't lose my shirt on it, because I was doing the same thing as you, dude. 2017, when I started buying Bitcoin, I was also buying the Ethereums, the Doge coins, all that shit. I sold it all, turned it all into Bitcoin at the top of the 2020 market, I believe. So I rode it up for a while. And I sold all that crap, turned it into Bitcoin, and then watched it all come crashing. Bitcoin come crashing down from 69 down to 15.
One of the things that because I've been around for a while and I've seen the whole evolution from start. Well, I don't want to say start because I wasn't here in 2010, but at least in the social media aspect of Bitcoin in our ecosystem, I've seen it evolve. And the one thing that I really don't like about our ecosystem are large accounts, the large like crypto influencers or whatever you want to say, the ones that are sitting on 500,000 or more or a million followers. They're almost none of them are Bitcoin only. They'll talk the Bitcoin game during the Bitcoin bull run, but they're make sure you have a little bit of Ethereum, take profits, make sure you have a little bit of whatever shitcoin, XRP, whatever the case may be. I hate the fact that the large, and it's probably because of the fact that people think they can make those big gains in those shitcoins. I don't know. But the disingenuous aspect of these influencers, because then when you call them out on it, they're like, well, I've been Bitcoin since day one. It's just, I just do a little bit of this stuff to make more, to put it in Bitcoin. And the best part of this cycle has been the fact that nothing has outpaced Bitcoin from start to finish. So that argument that, oh, I buy a little bit of Ethereum so that I can put my gains into Bitcoin, that got thrown out the window. Like, you would have held Bitcoin from 15K until now. There isn't a coin out there outside of maybe Solana, because that FTX blow up brought that down to like single digits, and it did get up to 200. I think that's the only place you can honestly say that maybe you got better gains. And I'm not advocating for Solana at all. I've never owned it in my entire life. I'm just want to be fair and factual. That's probably it. That's the only coin that you can even say that for. But people have portfolios of 50, 60 shit coins, and their thesis is they're either going to hold spot and outpace Bitcoin in a bull run, or they're going to leverage trade, which we saw on Friday how good that can go for people. And it's just like, you have these large accounts that, they got their Femex leverage trading banners in the corner, and they'll tell you like, buy whatever their thumbnail, the next Bitcoin. And I hate that shit. I absolutely hate that shit. Yeah. I don't know how you feel about it, but I can't stand it.
Oh no, it's infuriating. Like, it pisses you off because, first of all, the people that bought into the shit coins back in the day and they made their 1,000x and they made a shit ton of money. Congratulations, you're rich, dude. Fuck off. Like, don't tell retail who's suffering right now that can barely afford groceries that they're going to get rich off of buying XYZ coin, because it's not going to fucking happen. It's just not. Like,
100%.
You're not going to be able to take out leverage, 10x leverage on some shitcoin and 10x it and hope that you make $1 million in the next couple months. Like, it's not going to happen. And it's very unfortunate that people follow these guys, those gurus,
and girls.
They're losing. Bitcoin has been, like you said, the best performing. 15K to 126K is like, what, a 7x? So that's phenomenal. And you basically have no risk holding Bitcoin. You hold all the risk if you're holding a shitcoin, because that can get rug pulled any day, literally overnight while you're sleeping. That can go to zero. We've seen it happen. I don't know how many times. And yet still people are, oh, here we go. If Shiba Inu hits a fucking $1, I'll have $29 because I have 29 million coins that I bought for $3. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Do you even know market caps? Like, do you really think that's going to happen? And it's insane that people are still pumping that stuff. It makes me mad.
Let's segue into your tweet, because I think this is a good place to go next. You tweeted earlier, assuming cycles continue, unpopular opinion, if 126K is the top of the cycle, 1 million by 2030 will not happen. We are behind on all predictions and models by approximately one cycle. I want to ask you what you thought of when you were tweeting it, and to kind of elaborate a little bit more, because I tend to agree with that.
What I thought was my legs were on fire because I was at the gym. No, I'm just messing, man. I was at the gym though when I tweeted that. So what I was thinking, it was going through my head. I was like, all right, the 2020 cycle, everyone was calling 100K, right? We're gonna hit 100K in 2020. That's a given.
I think we should have. I think so too, but we didn't. Mm-hmm. We topped out. We got the kind of fake second bounce type thing, from 60K down to 30, back up to 69. And I'm like, people keep predicting these outrageous numbers.
they keep saying, the main number I kept hearing this cycle that we should be topping out around 250. People
Yeah.
keep calling
Yep.
for 250. I'm like, guys, unless the cycle is broken, we're not hitting 250K this year. It's not going to happen. Like, what the United States has to announce that they bought 1 million Bitcoin, maybe then we'll hit it. But that's not going to happen. I do think if cycles continue how they have been happening, it's going to take probably 2 more cycles until we hit that $1 million mark. I was thinking if we topped out at 126, man, we could easily fall back to around the 60K mark. That's my bearish case. Not calling that that's what's going to happen. It was just an opinion. So I put that in the tweet. It was an opinion.
Unpopular one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, if we topped out at 126K, dude, by 2030, I keep hearing, not to call him out, but I just listened to Mark Moz talk on Natalie Brunell's show.
Yeah.
And he called out $1 million Bitcoin by 2030. And I was like, if we top out at 126 this round, not happening. I don't see it. I think we could maybe hit 500K in 2030. And then in maybe 2034, we could possibly hit the million. But I don't see it happening by 2030 if this bull run is over. Now, with that being said, if we continue this cycle and this bull run continues into 2026, then I'm going to delete that tweet.
I personally think cycles are broken. I don't think we topped at 126. While at the same time, there's an X factor. President Trump, just a tweet, a press conference, basically anything he puts out into the ethos affects markets dramatically.
Yeah.
So I think, because if you look at the beginning of the year, like we've been range bound in 110 to 120 basically the entire year
since January.
There's an argument to be made, I think, and nobody's really talking about, at least the podcasters that I listen to don't really address this at all. There's an argument to be made that the cycle was broken already, way before now, that we don't have to wait, that we've already seen it. Because previous cycles, you've had the run-up in the year of the halving, but it wasn't the run-up. You've had a run-up, not the run-up, right? 2016, 2020, you had some run-ups, but you didn't have like, what if you look back at like some parabolic runs. And last year we had a 60 to 90 candle just like that in like less than a month. Like it was quick with all, like, you know what I mean? So we've seen big moves happen. The odd year after in 2017, 2021, 2025 is supposed to be where we see action. And as we sit right now, we're a couple $1,000s away from where we started the year. And even if you say 126 is the quote unquote top, a 20K move from start of year to top, that's not really
Bitcoin
cycle.
bull run.
No, it's not a cycle. It's not the cycle. So, and that doesn't mean that indicates that 126 isn't at the top. It still could be, but I think that the whole cycle model has already been broken, and we just have, because you can't really say it until you pass it. You don't know it while you're in it. You know it after the fact. But like, we're almost in November, and here we are looking back at the year, and we're like, where was the 25 bull run? Like, it never really occurred.
No, that's why I said in the tweet, if the cycles continue, because if the cycles continue, then this was the weakest bull run in Bitcoin's history so far. You have like the 1,069 days or whatever of bull run after the halving, right? And we're pretty much reaching that. and we haven't had an exponential run in the last year. And that's typically when it happens. And we haven't had it. So I agree with you. I do think cycles are broken. I do think this continues into 2026. And that's why I say if you're trying to trade this market, good freaking luck, man.
Yeah.
You're going to get wrecked
Mhm.
because I do think that this run will continue into 2026. And potentially we could see a slow grind all the way through, Trump's presidency. There is potential for that. We might have the 30, 40% dips here and there along the way, but general consensus, it could just go up slowly. I mean, we could grind up to the 150K, drop back down to 130, grind up to 160, 170, fall back down to 140. We could do stair stepper for the next year or two without a huge parabolic, 50% run in 3 months. That could not happen.
The fact that Jerome Powell's term ends in May and you have President Trump screaming for 300 basis point drops, you know that the Fed is about to get super crazy in regards to, like, I don't know how it's going to look from here until the end of his term. I don't know I think the market's got 3 or 4 25 basis point cuts put in before he leaves. I think something like that. Not super bullish, but it's not bearish. But after May, when Trump picks whoever it's going to be, I'm sure they're going to have a conversation like, listen, if you want the job, this is what I want you to do. And we're going to have like massive liquidity hitting the market in the middle of 26. So I can't see us going from 126, the top, to 60K next October, while in the middle of all that, we have just absolute free money being thrown around again, like 2020. You know what I mean? So, and I think there's good and there's bad with Trump. The bad is that it's so unpredictable. You just never know. And again, I would never trade in a Trump. Like, you just look what happened on Friday, like literally just wiped out. I was hoping that shitcoins would be completely wiped out, and some of them did go to zero apparently in some trading exchanges, but they did come back, which is unfortunate. But, it's definitely going to be helpful in regards to knowing that Trump is going to do what everybody else did. Like, we're so in debt. The only way to service the debt is to print more. So it never stops. Like, it's like Lynn Alden says, like, you can't stop. The train's already going. You can't stop it. So it's just inevitable at this point. And we have a president that likes to give out free money like all the rest of them. And maybe we have a little bit of a lull for a couple of months, but come May, I don't see any world where everything doesn't fly.
Yeah, no, it's the big print. I mean, they have to print more money. And that's why he wants Jerome Powell to lower rates so they can do it for cheaper. I mean, that's pretty much essentially what they're saying is they have to service their debt. They have to print more money. He keeps talking like, if they lower it down, like what you say, like 300 basis points, he's like, every time that that he doesn't lower it, it's costing us X amount of money. And he wants cheap money, man. That's what he wants. And he knows that that's going to make markets soar. So I agree with you. There's too many bullish things for Bitcoin to go into a deep bear market like we've typically had. I don't see it. That's why I'm taking advantage of every little dip we see, because there's too many bullish things. I think actually Trump is even talking right now. He had a speech at like 3 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. And I don't know if it has anything to do with Bitcoin, but if it does, I mean, hopefully it's bearish. Hopefully we don't see another flash crash down to whatever. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter except for the fact that I'm on here and I can't buy.
We're sitting at 108 almost on the dot. So it's kind of where we started the pod. So if whatever he's saying or said hasn't affected Bitcoin much. Okay. We can talk about gold next, because I have a theory on what's going on with gold. I'd love to throw it by you and see what you think.
Yeah.
Gold's parabolic. I mean, Peter Schiff is dancing in the streets at this point. Everything is, I mean, Bitcoin's going down equities aren't really doing much, but gold and silver are moving. This is what I think is happening. And this is, I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory. I don't know if this is like we didn't land on the moon type stuff, but what I think is that governments have realized that Bitcoin is what the future is going to be. But they also realized they can't move the price down as low as they would like to get the entries that they want. And that's because of guys like us that won't sell. There's like 70% of coins that don't move. So yes, they can do shenanigans, right? I mean, Friday was a great example of it. Like they nuked our market. Yeah. And Bitcoin, I mean, if Friday happened and Bitcoin went to like 60K, you could look at it and be like, yeah, they fucking nuked it. Like I can see that. You'd drop your stomach, but you'd be like, they're playing games. But they can't do that because so many of us aren't on those fucking exchanges with those playing those shitcoin games. We got our stuff in self-custody. You can't touch our shit. You can't nuke our shit. You're playing with 10% of the supply, which only drops the price 10 or 20%. Good luck. Have fun. I think they've recognized there's too many of us hardcore hodlers to really fuck with the market. So I think my conspiracy is they're using gold. So they're attacking gold. Instead of getting Bitcoin at 50 or 60, they're taking gold from 2 and they're going to make it go to 5. And then you can sell gold at 5 and buy the same Bitcoin you wanted to buy at 60 with the gold you got at 2 that's now at 5. And you can scoop up the same quantities that you wanted to do by trying to nuke the Bitcoin market, doing it that way. And again, that's off the reservation type shit possibly because that takes a lot of coordination. Wouldn't put it past governments. I wouldn't put it past BlackRock and all these other companies because I think BlackRock knows probably more than anyone how this market works now that they have the ETFs and they're dealing with it every single day. And they're realizing like there's a lot of motherfuckers in this thing that they're not getting rid of their shit. Like I think it was it Ray Dalio? No, it wasn't Ray Dalio. Paul Tudor Jones, where he's like, I've never seen a more convicted in anything where the price could drop 70% and they don't flinch. Yep. So I think, and again, I think because no matter what, gold it's got an expiration date because that's a boomer thing. And when the boomers die off, Gen X and Zoomers, I mean, I hate to say it, crypto, Bitcoin, whatever you want to say, like they're not in the shiny metals. They're playing over here. So that's going to come here anyways. So I think that they're recognizing that they're pumping the prices up. Central banks are doing what they're going to do, and they're going to scoop up, maybe not necessarily the central banks, but sovereign nations and sovereign wealth funds are going to scoop up that gold. And you got these idiots, I hate to call them idiots, gold has sound money aspects, lining up around the corner in these countries to buy this shiny metal, and they're going to get caught holding the bag. No, that's because again, you can't verify. You can verify with Bitcoin. Who knows how much gold is on this fucking planet? We don't know. We don't even know what the fuck's in Fort Knox. It might be empty. We have no idea.
Absolutely.
They can hit a switch and the supply triples and the price plummets, but they make their move before that happens.
Yeah. No, let's open up Fort Knox. Let's get it open. Let's see how much gold is in there. And once they find out that there's zero gold in there, let's see what happens to the price. But that's an interesting theory. That'd be kind of diabolical if they pumped gold to sell it to buy Bitcoin.
47 years on this planet, brother. I've seen some diabolical shit go on with governments and nations. It would not surprise me.
No. All I've heard is that China's buying gold because of the whole, get out of the dollar, treasuries, bonds. They want to get rid of that stuff. And so they're switching to gold. So that's what I've been hearing about gold. I personally am in the camp where gold going to all-time highs every other day is such a bullish signal to me. I think the higher gold goes, the higher Bitcoin will go. In the short term, I have no idea. No one does. But in the long term, if we see gold just keep going, hit that 5,000 and above mark, like, dude, Bitcoin will be worth 1.34 million at a $27 trillion valuation, which is gold's market cap. It's probably even higher now because it keeps going up. So
I saw earlier, I don't know if you ever listened to Benjamin Cowan. You ever listen to any of his stuff?
To who?
Benjamin Cowan.
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
He was on a podcast with somebody that's Bitcoin only. Benjamin's not he's not really a Bitcoin maxi. He talks about crypto, but he owns just Bitcoin. But he was saying that gold in the last year, the year to date gold move has added 3 Bitcoin market caps.
Yeah.
So 3 market caps of the current so that's like 6 trillion. So gold has added about 6 trillion to its market cap year to date.
Yep. Yeah, when I was talking to Checkmate, he was explaining it to me, and it was like, this is insane. Gold is adding Bitcoin's market cap, like it was like monthly.
Yeah,
It was wild. Yeah. And because I told him something, my bear case and how my predictions, and he was like, "Oh, we could easily go way higher than like the 150, 190 mark," because that was my prediction for the end of this year, like 150, 190 by Christmas. And Checkmate was like, "Well, let's go through some math." And he was like, "Dude, we could easily go way higher if we started to keep up with gold." And I was like, "That's pretty fascinating that like gold going up this much, I do believe is showing the road for Bitcoin. It's showing the direction."
Yeah, you look at I'm not a charter, so I don't want to pretend that I am, but the global liquidity index, like you look at the global liquidity and Bitcoin supposedly follows that. And we have been, if you look at the chart, up until like very recently, and gold is kind of like following it at the current moment. And everybody's thesis is that gold goes first and then Bitcoin runs after. I don't know when that, like you were saying, I don't know when that happens. I don't know when the switch goes off for gold and it goes into because what I think is going to happen is that the buying will stop with gold and the profits will go into Bitcoin, and that's where the money's going to go. I just don't know when.
I hope so.
That'll happen. I just don't know when that'll happen.
Yeah, I don't either. I hope it does. I mean, just like we were talking about, you don't know there's no ledger.
No.
You can't tell who's buying gold, where it's being stored. I tweeted that out, I think last week, maybe it was earlier this week. And I was like, so if I go buy a bar, a nice, big, scarce, super rare, hard to find bar of gold, what ledger does that get put on to tell Peter Schiff that I own that gold and it is no longer for sale? There is no ledger that gold tells people that. So I don't understand how, yes, it's scarce because it's hard to mine, but we don't know how much there is. And Bitcoin is finite. So it is a better money than gold because they can't mine more. So the run up in gold is what? Because it's scarce, it's hard money. That's what's been, told for the past 5,000 years. And now that's switching to Bitcoin. And so I think Bitcoin will catch up and pass it eventually.
I mean, it's hard to not believe that the gold market is just so manipulated from top to bottom, just from not knowing how much is actually out there to the Fort Knox argument to the suppression of the price. Because even there's a fair argument that while Bitcoin has been making this parabolic run from 2009 until today, going from worth nothing to 6 figures, as great as gold's run has been recently, it didn't do shit for 12 or 13 years. Like it traded in $100 range. So even in 2020, when all the money was printed, it didn't go into gold.
No.
Which makes no sense, right? Like something should have dripped over there. So like, what were they doing to stop that they've now allowed to happen now? That's like thinking like that leads me to that thesis that I brought out earlier, is just like, I don't trust what's happening in these markets right now. It feels off. Things are happening that you can't explain. And it's wild. It's just really, really wild to see all these things play out.
Well, and then did you notice during that crash that it got like leaked that there was that one person that opened up a huge short right
Yeah.
before,
Barron
and they
Trump?
made. Was it confirmed that
It's
was
not
him?
confirmed. It's not confirmed, but it if it's not somebody in the Trump family, which it would be so reckless if it was, it has to be somebody that knew that tweet was going to come out.
Yeah.
You're making a $200 million 5X leverage play on a random Friday. Just happens to be 29 minutes before Trump tweets out, we're at a trade war with China that you know is going to spark market in the crypto markets, not in the traditional markets, specifically in the crypto markets.
Right after the markets close.
Yeah, in that window where, yeah. I mean,
I know. The manipulation is driving me crazy in the short term, and that's when you have to go out and touch grass, because if you stare at the daily chart, you'll drive yourself crazy.
Yeah,
because we have to be higher than this. In my own head, I'm like, we should easily be higher than this. There is no way we should be sitting at $107,000. I think it's 107 now. And I'm like, what is going on? Why are we dropping? Who is selling?
Yeah.
What is going on in this market? How many more whales can come in and sell their 80,000 Bitcoin that they held from 2011? Like that happened, and we dropped 2.5%, 3%, and we rebounded right away. And now we're just dropping, and there's no excuse for who's selling. Like it's not us. It's not the Bitcoiners.
And even the ETFs, the outflows aren't really dramatic. Like they're still sitting on over 100 billion. Like it's not like there's like a day where they're just like unloading all the ETFs into the market, and it's like they're all the sellers. That's not even happening.
I mean, could it be, the exchanges like the Binance? I don't want to call out specifically that. I mean, we all know that they've done sketchy shit, but could it be exchanges manipulating the market on behalf of someone, or could it be market makers wiping out even more leverage, suppressing the price so people, like you said, the United States, if they are going to buy, they want to get it for a cheaper price. I mean, why wouldn't you if you can? Is someone else influencing this market somehow to keep it in this low 100 to like 120K range for 10 months?
I don't think the United States is a serious buyer of Bitcoin. The whole SBR narrative, I just never bought into it. I know that gets Bitcoiners excited. Full transparency, like in July of last year on this podcast, I used to have a co-host on this podcast, and he dropped off. It was my cousin. He was a shitcoiner, and my idea was to try to get him to be Bitcoin only. He got so wrecked in the shitcoins that he had to take some time off. Still love him. But I said on this podcast, because he's like a huge Trumper, I'm apolitical. I don't give a shit if it's red or blue. I only care about orange. That's the only shit I care about. And I said on this podcast, and everybody's so excited about Trump coming in. I'm like, yeah, we sat through choke point 2.0. The Biden administration was terrible. We want to move on from all that. But like, I don't trust Trump. I did not like the speech at Bitcoin. And I talked about it on the podcast. I think RFK's speech was 10 times better than his. I said, he doesn't know Bitcoin. And no matter what all the insiders are trying to tell you, no matter what Bailey tries to tell you, or any of these people who said they had conversations with him try to tell you, he doesn't understand it. Maybe the kids do, but he didn't. And the whole SBR thing, they're not incentivized to. Bitcoin is either inadvertently or purposefully here to supplant the US dollar. We're trying to change the money, right? So it's not necessarily that we want Bitcoin to be the standard and then get rid of everything else. It's just the money sucks. We're creating an alternative to try to make things better. And if that is what we get to, then that's what we get to. We're not saying that get rid of the US dollar tomorrow, but that might be the road that we go down. And I think that the US government doesn't want that to happen. They want to stay the world reserve currency, and no matter how nice they talk about Bitcoin, I don't think that they want to put it in a spot where it could do that. And I think the SBR would position it to do that.
Yeah, no, politics in Bitcoin is interesting because on one hand, you said that Biden, the choke point 2.0, and we have Elizabeth Warren hates Bitcoin. And then we have A lot of Democrats, they really don't like Bitcoin. And so the Republicans took the other side of the aisle and they started saying that they love Bitcoin. And then they go to the Bitcoin conference and do speeches. The SBR thing, I could really care less as well. It will pump our bags eventually, but that's about it. I hate that it's getting politicized though. And I do like that Bitcoiners are finally recognized in the political sphere that, hey, we're here. We deserve a seat at the table. So that's kind of nice. But no, politically, I'm like, can we try to keep as much politics out of Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin works just fine without politics. We don't need Trump. We don't need the US government involved in our Bitcoin. If without them, we'll do just fine. We don't need them. And Bitcoin is for countries like El Salvador, that's who it's for, trying to bring a nation from poverty back into, reality. And that's who it's for. We just are blessed enough to live in America and we have the US dollar that we can buy more Bitcoin than probably El Salvador people, so we're blessed in that aspect. And that's what people don't see is like, take advantage of it if you can, because most people don't see it, especially in the Western world. Why would you? We've only known the US dollar. It's the strongest currency, and the strongest currency in the world is getting weaker. So,
By the day. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's wild.
Do you think there's a world where the US government takes a look at backing the dollar with something hard again, whether it be Bitcoin or whether it be gold, anything at all? You think that do you think we've passed the point with the debt being where it's at? Because it would be a very uncomfortable scenario and situation to do it with the debt being where it's at, because it handcuffs them to really, I mean, if you're backing it with a hard asset and then you can't print, how do you service that debt? You would have to push the reset button in some sort of way.
Yeah, that's
because
tough,
it doesn't
man.
end well. Every scenario and simulation you play out, it doesn't end. It ends terrible.
I know, and I go through this probably way too much in my own head about how do we get ourselves out of this, because there's really only a couple ways, and no matter what direction you go, it's going to be really, really fucking shitty, dude. It's going to be bad. It's not going to be good for pretty much anyone besides the very rich people, because they'll be just fine. But everyone else is going to get hurt along the way pretty bad. One way, all right, we cut out Social Security. We cut out every socialist program. We cut our military in half. So now we have to worry about defending our own country, but that's what we would have to do. Everyone on welfare, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're
good
cut.
luck. Yeah.
You're all done. Anyone that needs assistance for living, anyone needs Medicaid, Medicare, you're done. But we have to do it, so you're cut. Middle class, and unless you're savvy enough to survive, like if you hold Bitcoin, you'll probably be okay. But if you don't, you'll probably now be the new lower class. The lower class will be homeless, all of them. They'll be broke, dead, alcoholic, shooting up heroin, killing themselves. That's one way. And then they reset everything, and that doesn't seem very pleasant.
No.
Another way is what you hyperinflate the dollar, and we move to a gold or Bitcoin standard, and everyone that doesn't hold those assets gets fucked, and they all go broke anyway. So I don't know what other road we could take to solve it. There's literally no way that we can fix the debt that we have. It's too astronomical. It would take way too much. Even if we cut all those social programs that I just mentioned, inflation would still run hot, and your dollar would still decline, and the price of everything would still increase, and you still wouldn't be able to purchase as much as you can, next year, next 5 years, next 10 years. You still wouldn't be able to. So your quality of living is going to go down, and no government official is going to run on that. They're not going to win and be like, hey guys, I'm going to reset the dollar. your life is going to suck for the next 10 years, but stick with me and vote for me. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think that not enough people give credence to the notion, the unpopular notion, that we should have let everything collapse in 2008. That was our out. And again, it would have sucked bad. We would have definitely had a depression, but we'd be done with it now. We would have been out with 16, 17 years later, it'd be over. It doesn't mean it wouldn't have sucked going through it, but not just for what happened after that, but the fact that they did it on such a small level compared to what they did in 2020 made them look back and say, well, we printed $789 billion in 2008. What's another 8 or 9 or 10x that now? Just do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And
no president wants to go down in history as the one that collapsed the United States. That sent the United States in the worst recession, reset, had the most suicide, the highest, violence. I mean, things would go crazy. They would absolutely go crazy.
If 2008 happened in January instead of like Lehman collapsing and all that in September and October, if that happens in January instead of September, October, I think there's a not zero chance that somebody in the administration might have said, why don't we just let this thing go down? Because there was no election for them to run again. He did his 8 years. Not to say you want to tie your legacy to that, but the fact that you had an election, there was an election going on in the middle of it. McCain and Obama were in the room with Bush trying to figure out how to stop this thing from collapsing. If this happens way before that and it's just that administration, I'm not saying they still wouldn't have done everything and made the decisions they made, but the fact that we were literally in an election cycle getting ready to vote while that was going on, nobody was ever going to sign up for the alternative of just letting it all go.
No, and that's I agree with you. I don't think they would have, but that's what they should have done. But they didn't, and now they print more, and so now they're going to have to print more because unless we start World War III, they have no excuse to do anything dramatic, right? Like they can't just you can't start COVID over. Like we've all called that bullshit.
Yeah.
So they can't do that again, even if they try. So to do a reset almost doesn't make sense, which kind of brings me to the inevitable, which is UBI. And I think that will inevitably, because people are you can't afford to live. People aren't going to be able to afford to live because they're going to have to print the next, they did 8 trillion in 2020 or something, 2020, 2021.
Yeah, it was close to 10.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one has to be even more than that. So it might be slower. It might not be one big package, but it's going to be more. Things are only going to get more expensive.
Don't you think, though, at some point the debt is going to get so insurmountable and so high, prices of goods and services are also going to get so high, wages are now not keeping up. They're definitely not going to keep up 10, 20 years from now. AI is coming. God knows what that's going to do to jobs in the workforce and people working and what that looks like in many different facets. You don't think that there's going to be a point, because this is the scenario that I think we'll probably get to, where they're not going to hit a reset button and start over from zero, but they're going to do some version of, we have to just say this sector has to eat it for everybody else. The debts here go to zero, and all the lenders that lend it at that spot, they got to eat it just so we can get this thing to a place where people can live. Because I don't think we can you can't just keep adding on to the problem, at some point you have to make a decision and you have to go one way or the other. You can't keep printing. Like we're going to, in the short term, I mean next 20 years maybe, we'll keep printing. Yeah. At some point in the future, you can't go to the grocery store and spend $4,000 for groceries and be making $120,000 a year.
I know.
Minimum wage. You know what I mean? Like at some point it's going to accelerate, because wages are not keeping up with everything.
No.
So it's accelerating to a point where at some point in the future, they're going to have to make some decisions, I think, where they're going to have to say, this sector, you have to eat it. Like, it's not going to be banks. Maybe it's housing. You got it. Like builders, you got to eat it. Like, sorry, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And again, I'm not smart enough to conceptualize what that looks like, but I just know that you can't keep compounding a problem that's going to get to a place where it can't. I mean, because if it does, you're going to have anarchy. People are going to be robbing stores because they can't afford basic necessities, and people are going to be just harming each other not because they want to or because they're animals, because it's survival. We are animals. Animal instinct will kick in, and you got to do what you got to do to provide.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the dark side of it for sure. Is, they can kick the can down the road further than we think. They've shown that.
Yeah.
They can keep doing it, and it's astonishing to me because when 2020 happened, I was like, this is it. This is the big print. Like, this is the big print. And I didn't know what the big print was back then. But I was like, damn, like, we're fucked. I really thought that we were fucked. And look what happens. Life kind of goes on, and they just keep kicking the can down the road. And I'm like, how much more can they do? Can they do this for another 20, 30, 40 years? Like you said, eventually it has to come to an end, whether that's in our lifetime. I'm 35. I turn 35 soon. Or it's my kids or grandkids, but it's got to be sometime. And how bad do things have to get before then? No one can afford groceries as it is. I mean, my steak is insane. Going to the grocery store used to be a normal trip.
It's a painful experience.
It sucks now because you're like, man, do I get the healthy choice or do I get the Kroger brand because it's $3 cheaper? And if you buy everything Kroger brand, then your bill is $25 less. And then you're like, fuck, dude, this sucks because I'm dropping $100 for 3 items. It almost feels like.
Yeah,
it blows. And I don't know how people are surviving as it is. My wife and I consider ourselves middle class, and we feel it. Every once in a while, when you have the HOA dues, your mortgage, and then something goes wrong with the car, you're kind of like, fuck, like we're poor this month. Like we got to wait. It sucks, dude. It's not how it should be.
Agreed.
But on a positive note, that's why we Bitcoin, and that's why there's hope.
Us, like we're in a community, and I'll shout out the Bitcoin Army too, the awesome community on X. We're in a community that understands all this, and sometimes it feels like there's a lot of us, but there's really not. Like in the grand scheme of the global population, I think we penetrate like 3.7, like straight up Bitcoiners. It's like 3.7%, and I feel like that's even high. I feel like ChatGPT doesn't really know the real answer, but it doesn't even seem like that much.
That feels high.
Yeah, it feels high. Like Bitcoin maxis, they're probably guys that own Ethereum and XRP and shit with their Bitcoin, right? But that understand, like if you own Bitcoin and Bitcoin only, you really understand why you own Bitcoin. If you own Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP, it's no different than playing on Robinhood or playing on Schwab. Like you don't know what you have. You're trying to make fiat gains. It's a fiat mindset syndrome. You're eventually going to give up whatever you got anyways. There's so very few, and we do, I feel like we have time, but the higher the price gets, and it feels like, because we watch it on a daily basis, but to people on the outside, they're like, oh my God, that thing's already up to 108. Like some people are like, I feel like it was just 20,000. You know what I mean? Because they're not in it every day. To us, it's going slow. To the rest of like the world, they're like, that shit's 100 grand already. Like, oh my God. Like, you know what I mean? So it's going slow for us, but it's really not. It's going fast.
We're so early though. It's crazy. We're so early.
We are early. I agree. But for the same reasons that we're talking about going to the grocery store, the other thing real quick, I'll add in, like the Bitcoiners that do their videos where 0.1 Bitcoin to retire. It's just like, bro, like what? Even if Bitcoin gets to 20 million and you're 30 and you got 2 million at 30, like, come on, let's pump the brakes. Like we're not like, it's good to have milestones. It's good to tell people to get to those milestones, but to say that you're going to be able to retire and even the ones at 0.01, I'm just like, I gotta log off for the day. I can't look at this anymore.
Yeah. Well, you have $200,000 in the bank.
I'm like, what's happening? Like, That stuff bothers me as well. And I know it's for clicks, and people like to. I like the ones where they'll do like at each level. If you're this age, you should attain to get this much, which will give you this CAGR. Which those are more reasonable. Where you're trying to like get to a certain spot that's much more. It's we need to be like real with people of what Bitcoin is, what you're trying to attain, and where things sit currently. And I can be toxic, and I'm in a lot of army spaces, but I don't like to talk too much because I feel like everybody's like kumbaya a lot, and I'm like, this is a fucking war. We're at fucking war. We're at war with Ethereum. We're at war with XRP. We're at war with. They're fucking trying to kill people with this shit. Like, people die. People killed themselves on fucking Friday. They're fucking dying because they're shitcoining on Femex and Bybit and jerk off, whatever the hell these channels are that they're exchanges where they're shitcoining. People are dying because they're being told that Caspa's the next Bitcoin or XRP is going to do it. No, dude. Like, Bitcoin only. If you're a shitcoiner, get the fuck out of here, or we're going to tell you what time it is.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, I mean, so to talk about like your different levels, like the 0.1, 0.01, the way that I look at it, we both know Bitcoin's going to 1 million, right? We just don't know when.
Right.
It will be worth 1 million, and then it will be worth 10 million, and so on. So, all right, we're at 100 grand. Every $50 you put in, that will be worth 500. Every $100 will be worth 1,000, and so on. You just add a zero. And so if you want to think of it in fiat terms instead of holy shit, Bitcoin's 100,000. Okay, no one has 100 grand. Normal people do not have 100 grand to go buy a full Bitcoin. You don't have to do that. You just stack, and the little buys will add up. And soon enough, in the next 5 to 8 years, you'll see that small stack will become a bigger portion of your portfolio because Bitcoin will grow. And that's exactly how I started out, is just the little $50, $100 buys, and they become a lot.
Yeah, let's I gotta take care of my kids, so let's wrap this up. I want you to shout out all your socials, shout out your podcast, so anybody watching can follow you and subscribe to your pod.
Yeah, absolutely. On YouTube, it's the Bitcoin broadcast. It's on Rumble. It's on Spotify and Apple as well.
Nice.
So the Bitcoin broadcast on all of them. I have 2 Twitters, one for the podcast, which is the BTC broadcast, because the Bitcoin broadcast was stolen, assholes. And then I'm HodlFlorida. HodlFlorida. It's just a picture of me in a Bitcoin broadcast shirt, tank top. Nice. You'll see it. But that's all I
put
have.
I put everything in the description of this video too, so people can click on it too. If they're too lazy to do that, they'll hopefully see it to this part and type it in.
Okay. Oh yeah, I have an Instagram too. It's on Instagram too. The Bitcoin broadcast on Instagram, but that's it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, man. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Yeah. I'll see you in the streets, in the X streets, and we'll chat. All right, man.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good day, man.